EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back to Football 24/7. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II, and I'm here with my man, John McMullen, our Eagles insider for JAKIB Sports. Before we get into the content, you guys know what you have to do. You got to smash that like button. You got to stay engaged in the content. And I want you guys to continue to make sure you comment below in the live chat. And also, if you're watching this after the fact, if you're not able to watch this live stream live, of course, it's perfectly all right. Make sure you guys continue to comment below. Smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to JAKIB Sports, giving you your best coverage on Eagles training camp. And now we have reached day 6, or rather day 6 of Eagles training camp that's been available to the media, of course, is now behind us. John McMullen, how are you feeling today, sir?
Doing well. Struggling through it, man. The grind, as they call it.
Oh, you're used to this. You're used to this. You're a
not
veteran.
what it once was. Yeah, but I'm getting older. So come on, you're still a young guy. It's you know, and plus the Eagles did back-to-back days. Come on, they're making it hard on us. And they had longest practice of the summer. Almost, they were supposed to go an hour and 50 minutes, which would have tied Nick Sirianni's longest practice ever. He cut it off about 10 minutes early, though.
Oh, bless his heart. Bless his heart. Did he have you guys doing push-ups with Jalen Hurts out there?
No, yeah, that was, Jalen made a mistake. The Dak Prescott mistake, didn't hand the ball to the official and did a couple push-ups to make up for it. But the Eagles were doing a 2-minute drill with the clock winding down, and he made a mistake, and he did the push-ups. And a lot of people are, one thing Nick Sirianni has always said is Jalen likes hard coaching. That's what makes him unique from other superstar quarterbacks who you probably need to handle with kid gloves. And Nick's talked about that a lot because they're both sort of have that in common. They're both sons of football coaches. So Jalen's been getting yelled at since he was a kid. So he takes it pretty well, as opposed to some guys who make $255 million or so, who might not take it as well.
Yeah, man. That's the thing about Jalen Hurts. He kind of just seems like he's wired for the city of Philadelphia. When you think about everything that comes with playing in this city, it's a blue collar place, and the biggest thing Eagles fans, any Philly sports fan really cares about is your effort and your commitment to your team.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I'm gonna stop you there.
See, I'm from Philly, John, so I'm curious what you're gonna say next.
That is not true. That is completely not true.
Prove me wrong, sir.
There's too many to prove you on. Nate Gary. Nate Gary. I'll prove you wrong with Nate Gary.
He tries hard.
Nate Gary played through a sports stinking hernia, hustles his ass off, and they treated him like shit because he couldn't play.
Okay.
David Bell, if you want to go back to a Phillies player, hustled everything, couldn't play. Here's where you're wrong, Tom.
Okay.
They embrace you if you do everything you said and you're really good. Then they embrace you. But if you stink, you can hustle all you want. It's not going to get you anything. Anything.
You might be onto something, because now I'm thinking about Doug Barnett. He's someone who I've never questioned his work ethic.
There you go.
But man, oh man. He is the poster child for that, right?
all you hear about Derek Barnett from the coaching staff and all that kind of stuff is how hard he works, how diligent he is. He makes some mental mistakes, mental errors, no question about it, with the penalties and all that. But yeah, nobody's going to question his work ethic. Never lived up to the hype. And by the way, he's not Nate Gary. He's a good player. He's just not as good as people thought he would be. So, right. Yeah, one thing about me, Tone, and you know it, I'm not playing into that nonsense.
I know. Sometimes I try to get by you. Sometimes I try to get it by you.
It bothers me. That kind of stuff bothers me because it's not true. And, you know, I joke about Nick Sirianni being the pander in chief.
Right.
I don't think you have to pander. I'm trying to elevate the conversation. I always tell Jody, I don't want to play to the least common denominator. I don't want to pander. I want to tell people the truth.
Okay, now let's talk about the truth, right? Quez Watkins and Olamide Zacchaeus, Olamide spoke to the media today, right? And, through Twitter and various sources, I've been seeing that Quez and Olamide have had a pretty exciting day. Olamide had one of his best routes ran today, I think, on Keely Ringo. Quez is, catching everything thus far. What's the truth behind that competition right now? And I know we've talked about this before in the past. Maybe Sirianni is going to, situationally use those guys. But by your estimation, who truthfully is the more superior player, or who's shown themselves to be the more reliable, superior player right now in training camp?
Quez has clearly been the guy. It hasn't really developed into a competition. It's still, early. Maybe it does. Maybe he takes a step back, but he's clearly been better than Olamide Zacchaeus, as you mentioned, who had a good route, as you mentioned, really good route. One of the best routes we've seen all summer. Just completely froze Ringo as a rookie player, but he also had 3 drops today. So, the consistency hasn't been there like the Eagles would have liked, I would imagine. And Quez is, there's a lot of competitions, and we said, oh, right guard's going to be a competition. Well, it hasn't really been a competition. Third wide receiver hasn't really been a competition. Punter hasn't really been a competition. Some of these things have not sort of manifested themselves. And
do you think some of them have been manufactured then, in terms of the idea of a competition?
Yeah, I mean, right guard would be. I mean, we're through 6 practices. There's only 9. There were 9 scheduled. Now they added 1, so there's going to be 10.
Okay.
In the training camp portion. Then you'll have the joint practices. But so we're over halfway through, and nobody else has taken a first team rep at right guard until today. And the only reason Tyler Steen took a first team rep at right guard today was because the Eagles, because it was a back-to-back day, they rested Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson on certain reps. They took them out. And then they moved the offensive line around. Cam Jurgens was playing center. Tyler was playing right guard. Jack Driscoll was playing right tackle. But and Sua Opeta was playing left guard. There's been no real first team rep for anybody at right guard except Cam Jurgens when the true first team has been out there.
You said something that stood out to me. They increased the practices from 9 to 10. I have to ask you, is this team behind schedule?
No, I asked about that because that's my first thought was, I'm like, well, maybe they're realizing they went a little bit light. They're on Tuesday. They were scheduled to have a walkthrough, so I shouldn't have said off. Now it's going to be a real practice. The first preseason game is that Saturday in Baltimore. I think they're just trying to replicate a game week and get that in. And I think somebody said, hey, we should replicate a game week. And that's what they're trying to do and it made sense to me when that was explained to me, because what are you going to gain? But, well, you're behind and you're going to catch up with 1 added practice. So it's more that made sense to me. They're trying to replicate a game week, and that's understandable.
So as it stands right now, the practice schedule is what? Tuesday and what else?
I don't have it. They have Lincoln Financial Field
Right. So
on
Sunday
Sunday. Then
and
they have
Tuesday.
off Monday, and they do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So
And
3
then
back to back.
and then all Friday.
Then game day
And the
Saturday.
game day Saturday.
Oh wow.
But I am at Friday's going to Thursday's going to be very light, I would imagine, but technically a practice.
Okay. Can you give us some injury updates? I mean, these guys, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, some back-to-back practices, and N'Kobe Dean, he didn't have that much action today. And
He didn't have
also,
any
and also,
action.
and
He wasn't
also,
practicing.
exactly right. And also, linebacker Patrick Johnson had a scare today. Can you walk us through that situation, and also, like I said, walk us through the injury report as it stands right now?
Yeah, Patrick got carted off, so that was a scary situation. Still getting evaluated. The Eagles wouldn't confirm anything, but there's an indication that it's not going to be season ending. So that's the best case scenario. He looked, very disconsolate when it happens, and you always start thinking. But I remember last year when Britton Covey, sort of self, I don't know if he went on WebMD and decided he broke his wrist but he didn't. So, players often think something is wrong, and you get the MRI or whatever, and it turns out to be not as bad as you thought. Hopefully that's the case with Patrick Johnson. He's been having a good camp. The Eagles are really deep at that particular position, so you never like to see anybody injured, but that's one position where they could sort of, he was going to be on the bubble anyway because they're so deep at edge rusher. But it looks like he's going to avoid the worst case scenario, and we'll probably know tomorrow at the latest when they practice on Sunday what the deal is with Patrick. N'Kobe's got an ankle issue, did not practice today. James Bradbury had a groin, tweaked his groin. That's why he left. He did not practice today. First time team reps for Hassan Reddick. Not a lot, but he was out there for the first time in some teamwork. And Derek Barnett's first time got back in some teamwork. So some positive, some negative. Dean, though, and Bradbury are day to day, so they're not serious injuries, but obviously in training camp they're going to be as cautious as they need to be. And maybe there's a silver lining. We've talked about all the issues at linebacker. Can't hurt getting more reps for these young players. So maybe there's a little bit of a silver lining to get a better look at certain guys. And maybe the biggest news happened tonight. DeShields got acquitted on some very serious charges. He was taken off the commissioner's exempt list. The Eagles have confirmed he will be back.
Awesome.
And if you told me that when this happened, I would have said, I don't like the odds. But, to Jeffrey Lurie's credit, he's got a history of giving people second chances. And I don't even know if you can call this a second chance because he got acquitted. So I think a lot of people need to understand, somebody can allege something, but that doesn't necessarily make it true. And Josh has sort of professed his innocence throughout this, and he was acquitted today.
Well, we know how society is today, John. You're guilty until proven innocent rather than the other way around. Let's move the conversation forward. We haven't really talked too much about these tight ends. Obviously, Dallas Goedert is the number one. That's not even a debate there. But beyond that, Grant Calcaterra, Jack Stoll, Tyree Jackson, Dan Arnold. Those four guys are competing, I would say, probably for the two remaining spots on the roster when it comes to that tight end position. I'm curious to know what's been your evaluation of that position beyond Dallas Goedert, and who has stood out to you?
I think Jack is safe. I don't think he's in the conversation. So I think Dallas and Jack, obviously Dallas, but I think Jack is safe. And then it comes down to who you want to keep as that third tight end. I think for a Super Bowl team, I wouldn't mind having Dan Arnold. A lot of it has to do with, and by super, I mean Super Bowl contending team, because I think he can help you in a big spots.
This isn't the first time you said that. Can you dive a little deeper into the value you see in a guy like Dan Arnold?
Well, he's a really good receiver, and if you talk to tight ends around the league, he's a well-respected guy. You could see how more advanced he is than some of the other younger tight ends. But he's not a very good blocker. And he does get exposed that way. But you're talking about a third tight end. You can pick and choose. And I've said it pretty consistently. Look, if this were a 5-win team, if this were a 7-win team, I'm going to keep the young guy who maybe has a higher ceiling. But, if Dan Arnold can make a play for me in the NFC Championship game, Grant Calcaterra is probably not going to do that. Tyree Jackson's not going to do that. Maybe 3 years down the road. I think it's different. So to me, I would try to keep Dan around. But while I say that, he hasn't really he looked great in the spring. Hasn't really done much since camp has begun. So he's not separating himself. But either's Grant, to be honest. And Tyree looks good. Tyree always looks good. And then the injuries pop up, and it's a Super Bowl contending team. Do you really want a raw, admittedly tremendously athletic? I don't know if you want that for this team in this situation. And remember, you can get these guys through waivers and get them on the practice squad as well. So I don't think it's as big as a deal as it used to be making these decisions, because anybody going to pick up Grant Calcaterra on waivers? You never know. It only takes one, but I doubt it. So, if you waive them, you probably get them right back on the practice squad.
So far, we're at day 6 of training camp, you guys. That of media availability. Make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. You're locked on Football 24/7 with John McMullen. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. John, I want to talk a little bit about these rookies: Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Sidney Brown, all those guys. Kelly Ringo, Tanner McKee, Moro Jomo, a guy who we don't really talk too much about at all. Today, have you seen any guys make any progress from day 1 to day 6? And who stood out to you?
I think Nolan's been the best rookie, which is a bit of a surprise. I thought it would be Jalen Carter. They're starting him out a little bit more slowly than I thought they would. I think he's going to be the best rookie. But when they get there, Sean Desai talked today about Sidney Brown, still making some mental errors, which I was surprised he said that out loud, which kind of explains. I thought that was always pie in the sky. I compared yesterday on the show, if you think about Dax Hill and Lewis Seen from last year, those are first round picks who couldn't play right away. So to expect a third round guy to say, "Oh, he's going to be fine. He'll be," that was always a little bit shaky for me. So, Tyler Steen, same thing. We just talked about the competition. Really didn't develop. played right tackle, left tackle in college, you're asking him to change positions and compete to be on the best offensive line. And he only practiced 10 times, was 9 times, now 10 times. How do people think these kids are getting up to speed? So long term, I don't think there's any problem, but short term, anybody expecting splashes like right away, it's going to be Jalen Carter or bust probably. Now Nolan took the first rep at off-ball linebacker without Nakobe Dean. I don't know what the Eagles are doing there. I mean, the vast majority of the reps went to Christian Ellis and Nicholas Morrow. But for some reason, they started Nakobe Dean. They played him at 4-eye. They played him at his usual edge position. Hey, maybe he's got the ability to be a super player who can move around. He's very smart. Obviously, he's very athletic, but, I don't know. Usually, they want guys to learn one position and then expand. And they're putting a lot on Nolan Smith's plate. And we'll see how he handles it. But it's a little bit strange to me.
Yeah, it's fair to assume that because Hassan Reddick started off training camp a little banged up, that's maybe one of the reasons we did see Nolan Smith so much, or why he's had so many opportunities to really showcase, his game or his versatility, right? In comparison to a guy like Jalen Carter who hasn't, who they've actually started off more slow. Why, as a matter of fact, Hassan Reddick aside, why do you think they're starting Jalen Carter off so much slower than a Nolan Smith? Do you think it was because?
No, you're right. That's the reason.
Okay.
I mean, if Hassan was there, Nolan wouldn't be getting all those first team reps. So that is the reason. Why they're moving him around so much.
That's the part that confuses you.
That's the part that confuses me. Yeah. Like if Fletcher was out, Jalen would be getting a ton of first team reps. But he's not. Jordan Davis is there. So, that's why.
Is that a clear indictment on the rest of these linebackers? The fact that you're seeing Nolan Smith back there taking off-ball linebacker reps. You even saw Derek Burnett dropping back, so on and so forth. Is that a clear indictment on his linebacker room?
No, it's not, because they're very few. And yet it's getting played up so big by certain people. And that's what I can't understand from the Eagles' perspective. Like, they started him at off-ball linebacker, and then the next play, Nicholas Morrow was in. What is this, ceremonial? And then for the vast majority of the practice, the first team reps were Ellis and Morrow. So I don't know. I'll throw it out to you. Why? And now people are talking about it. Why generate this for a young player who, if he were doing that, would be playing out of position? And meanwhile, Howie's probably in the back making phone calls to try to get a real off-ball linebacker. And then it becomes, then what's the narrative? Oh, he can't do it? Why put a young kid in that position? I don't know.
I mean, you do raise a good point, right? Why put someone in a position that's not necessarily optimal for what they do well, and just create that? Again, this is Philadelphia, right? We both know how easily this city can gravitate towards a player, and we also know how much people are willing to jump out the window based off what this team is showing us. Especially with using Nolan Smith at off-ball linebacker, and using him in 4-eye, and as an edge rusher, and just various situations. It does kind of create a bad situation for the player. It kind of puts them in a situation where they're under these unfair set of expectations.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, let's use Hassan Reddick, because Hassan played all ball linebacker, right? Not well, but he played it in Arizona. They made a mistake. Um, he didn't do this. They don't ask Hassan Reddick to play 4-eye. They don't ask Hassan Reddick to take reps at all ball linebacker, even though he's taken a ton of NFL reps at all ball linebacker. He's fourth in the defensive player of the year voting. He's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. They don't ask him to do this. Why are you asking a rookie to do all of this?
Now let me push back just a little bit. Sean Desai, in one of his meetings with you guys, he mentioned how he's making it a point to throw a lot of information at these young guys. Do you think that falls in line with what they're doing with Nolan Smith?
No, because where's the other example of it? Jalen Carter's not playing edge rusher. Jalen Carter's not, obviously can't take linebacker reps.
Right.
You know, Derek Barnett did in developmental period. Where's Sidney Brown? Is he taking slot reps? Is he taking corner reps? No, but that'd be silly. Tyler Steen, because he's an offensive lineman, is now starting to cross train. But all backup offensive linemen have to play multiple positions. That's why he's doing it. It doesn't make sense to me. If I believed, and somebody brought up Micah Parsons, and if I believed the Eagles thought he could be like Micah Parsons and just move back and forth between all ball linebacker and be acceptable there and just go back to edge rusher, they'd be getting them first team reps at all ball linebacker before Nakobe Dean got hurt, because he would be the second best all ball linebacker. He would be next to Nakobe Dean, because you have so many edge rushers. He's not going to get on the field that way. So no matter what avenue I go down, it doesn't make sense to me. Every time I go down, well, maybe it's this, maybe that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Other than, maybe they think he's the most versatile guy in the world and he can handle all this.
They clearly see something, or believe like I said, they clearly see something, or maybe they're trying to force a square peg in a round hole. It would be the first time the Eagles have done this.
Well, I don't even think they're trying to force a square peg in a round hole. They put him out there for 2 reps, and then that's it.
I get what you mean. It's almost like, what are we doing? Why waste those reps, or why even waste our time? Why even plant that seed if you're never going to have a full practice with him out there doing that?
Yeah, I don't understand it. He had 1 rep at 4-eye. All right, what are you doing? Was somebody tired? I don't know.
Maybe Nolan Smith's motor just runs so damn hot.
Maybe
they got to get him everywhere.
Maybe he's just running out there to take somebody's rep. I guess that's a possibility.
Oh man! All right, before we get out of here, John, I want to play a quick game with you of over under. I know you and I know I'm not. I know you're not. We're not really gambling guys. That's more so our guy Jody right there. He's more so the Ocean Casino kind of guy, right? But I want to play a quick game of over under with you. We're going to try to fly through this thing as quickly as we possibly can. I want to try to get you back to the family. It's Friday, so I want you to eat good and sleep good, my man. You had a hard day, so let's try to fly through this. All right. Over under. Josh Sweat, 11.5 sacks.
Over.
Can you give me a quick synopsis why?
Great player. I think he's going to get, the Eagles have been because of what happened to him in high school. He had for those who don't know, very bad leg injury. And they've always been very cautious with his reps. And as he gets farther and farther away, they gain more and more confidence. The more he plays, the more plays he's going to make.
Okay. Over under. Hassan Reddick, 16.5 sacks.
Under.
Hmm.
That's a big number.
A
That's
regression.
tough to
In
repeat.
your own words, a regression to the mean.
Yeah, exactly. Not that he's going to have a bad season.
Right.
That's just, it's a difficult number to go back to back.
Jalen Carter, 7.5 sacks.
Boy, I would have went over early. Now that I see what's developing, I'm going to go under. I think Jordan Davis is going to play more than I thought, and that's going to affect how much Jalen Carter's going to play, and that's going to affect those numbers.
All right, that takes me to my next one, Jordan Davis, and he's not really. Well, you and I both know he's not there to get sacks. If he manages to steal a few, hey, that's great, but that's not why he's there. So Jordan Davis, I think for him, it's going to be more so about the TFLs, tackles for loss. So for Jordan Davis on his second season, over under 8.5 tackles for loss.
I don't even think it's about tackles for loss. I'm going to go under. He's about just tying up blockers, which is very esoteric, but I mean, he's there so others can make the play. And Jacoby at Georgia, turn on a Georgia tape. Jordan's there to take up two blockers so Jacoby can shoot the gap and get that tackle for loss. That's Jordan's job. So it's a very important job. But I think, people aren't, I've said this since he got drafted. It's going to be very tough to spin Jordan Davis being successful to the stat obsessed of the fan base. I'm looking at you, Jody.
Well, this era of sports and football, we're obsessed with betting. We're obsessed with the fantasy. The fantasy football thing has taken over. It's only natural for people to be so stat obsessed. But you guys in the live chat, I want you guys to get engaged in this over under thing as well. Like I said with Josh Sweat, over under 11.5 sacks. What do you guys think? Hassan Reddick, over under 16.5 sacks. Jordan Davis, over under 8.5 tackles for loss. Jalen Carter, over under 7.5 sacks. I want you guys to get engaged with that as well. Moving on to our next guy, our other Georgia Bulldog, Nakobe Dean. As we all know, TJ Edwards led his team in tackles. He was ranked top 3 on his team in terms of snap count. I believe he was on the field for over 1,000 defensive snaps, which is about 94% of the total defensive snaps that he was available to have. So Nakobe Dean, I'm curious, over under 99.5 total tackles.
Well, the issue there is how many games is he going to play? I mean, if he plays 17 games, he's way over that number. I mean, way over that number. That's my concern with Nakobe Dean. And by the way, I mean, that's if you play 17 games as a middle linebacker and you don't get 99 tackles, you're not good.
That's my concern as well, though. I mean, I'm concerned if he can hold up for all 17 games. I think that's why I made that number what I did, because I still have my doubts about him playing all 17.
And Nicholas Morrow was, I don't know, he was over 100 with Chicago, but they weren't good tackles. So I mean, that's
tackles are not created equal.
Exactly. So that's the bigger part. But that number's totally. How many games is he going to play? And that's a concern for me because he's already hurt. I don't think he's going to be TJ Edwards playing 1,200 snaps, 20 games leading up to the Super Bowl.
Jeez, man, why did they let him go?
Just from a durability standpoint, I think he's going to be fine when he's out there.
Right.
But I'm going to go over 99 though, because he might get 12 in week 1, and you're the whole defense is going to be funneled to him. So
right,
he's going to be making tackles left and right.
All right, let's move on to the DBs. Darius Slay, he's someone that I'm paying close attention to this season. He didn't really have the greatest ending to his 2022 campaign. Started off tremendous, but kind of had a regression to the mean, as you would say.
Speaking of, there, we could, our original quote. What's with all the Slay hate?
It's
I
fascinating.
mean,
It's fascinating, right? Because Slay, I think what I think it is, honestly, amongst Eagles fans, and this is just my thought process. I think a lot of people didn't really like how he handled his offseason, especially when he wasn't a free agent. And I really think a lot of people are hard on him about that Super Bowl performance. But I've also seen people really, really campaign for Slay as well. But you're not wrong. There is definitely a subset of Eagles fans that are really hard on Slay right now. Me personally, I would say I'm kind of in the middle of that, because part of me sees that Slay is still, in my opinion, a top 10 cornerback in this NFL. But I think the issue comes in is when you're so used to seeing someone playing at such a high level, and then you start to see them take a step or two or three back. Like, it's almost like when you're great and you kind of regress to being just good, people notice that immediately. So I think that's probably what it is. But what do you think?
I think he's a great cornerback, and I think the Eagles struggled at cornerback for so long. People get spoiled quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, if you watch other games, you'll see, some of the corners in this league. You're lucky to have Slay and Bradbury.
Absolutely, and I definitely don't want that narrative out there that I think Slay has.
I mean, he was so good in the first half. Again, we'll go regression to the mean.
Right.
Yeah, you can't keep that up, especially in this era of the NFL. But Slay's one of those guys. You just talk to other players and receivers, and they'll tell you how good Slay is. And when your peers say that, that's when you go, all right, this guy's a little bit different. And for the people that say Bradbury's better than Slay, no, he's not. Slay's the guy. And I love Bradbury. I love him as a player. I love him as a person. He's a phenomenal guy.
Right.
Slay's a better corner.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
I mean, he's 5-time Pro Bowl corner. He is a great cornerback. Great cornerback.
I would agree with that. But yeah, with him, over under 3.5 interceptions. I think he had 3 in 2022. So over under 3.5 for him.
Interceptions. I mean,
I know you don't really care about the turnover stats, but I gotta ask you, John.
Well, they come in bunches. With Slay, I'll go over. What the hell?
Okay, let's jump over to the offensive side of the ball, and then we'll get out of here. Jalen Hurts, over under 3,800 passing yards.
Under.
Okay.
I'll tell you, he's so freaking dominant as a runner. The Eagles defense can't stop him. I mean, they haven't stopped a quarterback draw yet. I get all these people talking about, so you can't run him as much. You can't run him as much. That's off-season talk, as I call about. That's laboratory talk. When you get into a game, you want to win that game.
Right.
How are you going to win that game? If he's going to take that run, he's going to run. So he's going to be so successful as a runner. That limits the passing a little bit, but with Jalen, it's about, and that's a perfect example. People complain, he's only got 22 passing touchdowns. That's why I don't like stat people. Dominant player. I don't care how he scores. He scores. I don't care if he's throwing it, running it. The third-ranked offense, they're going to be a really good offense again. But 3,800, you don't want him to throw for 38. I think a lot of people, why does these high volume throwers and the best, the Matthew Staffords of the world, the Kirk Cousins of the world, their numbers are outrageous every year. But you know what? They're playing on mediocre teams. They're always behind. They're throwing the football. They're great passers. But if you're throwing for 4,400 yards, if you're getting up near 400 yards, that means you're throwing the ball a lot. And why do you throw the ball a lot? Because you're usually behind at some point where you got to catch up. And I think people get way too caught up in that. You want to win games. By the way, if you're up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, guess what you're going to do? You're going to run the ball, and that's going to lower your passing yardage. So you should hope for less passing yardage. I never call people out in the chat, but I got to call somebody out in the chat. It's called coaching, talking about Nolan Smith. Start a player out of position. It'll be easier for him when he goes back to that position he's used to. What the? But give me another example. Give me another example. You don't have to bend over backwards and come up with nonsense to support a football. Give me another example. Did I start Jalen Carter at all-ball linebacker? Did I start an all-ball linebacker defensive tackle and say, hey, it'll be easier when you play linebacker? Did they start a cornerback at wide receiver? It'll be easier when you go back to cornerback. Have you ever heard a dumber? You start somebody out at a. I can't.
I've never seen. It's Freaky Friday. John's fired up.
Getting frustrated.
It's Freaky Friday. You guys got John fired up.
It's okay to say the Eagles aren't right about everything all the time. I'm the first one that tells you it's a tremendous organization. Usually, I agree with 90% of their decisions.
People don't hear that though, John.
The decisions usually make sense, but sometimes they don't. And this is an example of one that doesn't. They're making it easier for them by giving them 3 snaps at all ball linebacker. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I'm of the mindset of that kid's fast. Put him on the edge and let him go get the quarterback. That's what I care about.
Exactly.
That's my mindset. The real issue is
3 years of Hassan. Hassan's still bitter because 3 years of his career were wasted. He's still bitter about it in Arizona because they wasted 3 years of his career.
Wow. You kind of caught me off guard there, John, but I like it though. I like when you get fired up. I like this side of you. All right, let's move on. Jalen Hurts, we talked about how dominant he is as a runner. Over under 759 and a half rushing yards. 759 and a half over under.
That's a good number. I'm going to go under because I think the Eagles, as much as they try to not listen to the criticism, I think it sort of seeps in, even if it's on a subconscious level, and they start buying into, well, he can't run it this much and blah, blah, blah. Even though they don't believe that, I think it seeps in a little bit, and I think they'll try to run him a little bit less, but, and that's a big number. That's a big number as well. So
yeah, he had 760, I think, on the season last year. So
yeah, I think they'll try to run him less.
Yeah. In saying that, you think it'd be less designed runs and more so allowing him to just cook if they're in a passing play, allow him to just do his thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, and the passing yards will go up.
Right.
But, I don't think to the level, what'd you say, 39? What?
759 and a half rushing yards.
No, passing yards.
Oh, passing yards. 3,800 passing yards.
And what do you have last year? 30?
He had 37 and some change, I think.
Yeah, it's not too far. It's not too far high.
I mean, remember, he missed 2 games.
Yeah,
so.
I probably should have went over on the pad. Now I'm going to, I probably should have went over on the passing yards, under on the rushing yards. I'm going to realign because they're going to be behind more. They have a tougher schedule, and they'll be throwing it a little bit more. So that part of it just is sort of the natural way you play the game. If you're behind, you're going to throw it more.
All right, I got two more for you. Then we're getting out of here. And this is running back related. DeAndre Swift, over under 999.5 total yards from scrimmage. 999.5 over
Oh, I
under
thought you were going to
total
say
yards from scrimmage.
rushing. I'm going to go
No,
way under.
no. I
Yeah.
know exactly who I'm dealing with, John. Over and a half, over under 999.5 total yards.
Yeah, I'm going over that. I think he's going to be the lead back. I think, they're pretty cognizant of designing plays for him as a receiver. You get him to 650 rushing. Yeah, I think he'll go over that. If he doesn't go over that, it would be a disappointment. And I think he's a good player. It's tough because of his history in Detroit. He's probably going to miss a couple games, so that'll affect it. But yeah, people are higher on the Eagles running backs than I am, and he's the best of the lot. So somebody's got to get the yardage, and he's going to get a big chunk of it.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up the idea of Swift potentially missing games, because originally I was only going to reserve this for Penny. But let's pair these guys up, right? Over under DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, over under 13.5 games played.
Well, I'm going to go under for both. Well, Penny, it's like if somebody's going to play 17 games between Penny and Swift, I would pick Penny.
Oh, really?
No, I would pick Penny.
Really?
Because Penny's injuries are all broken fibula, torn ACL,
freak injuries like that, not ticky tack.
Swift has missed 4 games each year. He's going to pull the hammy. He's going to pull the hamstring.
That's an interesting point. I didn't think about it from that perspective, that Penny's injuries are more so like these grueling freak injuries, like you said, broken fibula, torn, whatever. Whereas Swift is like the ticky tack, the soft tissue strain, exactly. Or things like that. That's interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. So with Penny, it's you hate to use that word luck, but if your ACL goes, your ACL goes, and it's you break your fibula, you break your fibula. It's not because you didn't stretch, So he needs a little bit of luck on the injury front, and he's gotten it so far. He's healthy. He's been completely healthy.
He spoke about how he's really leaning into this organization, and he's really been pleased with how they've been taking care of the players. He spoke about that. So and I think that's why he came here. Really, I think that's one of the reasons he came here. Outside of them being a successful team and organization, I think he also came here when he saw that this team had all 22 starters ready to go for the Super Bowl. I think he saw that and was like, okay, they kept all these guys healthy. Sure, there's some luck involved, but they're clearly doing something right. Maybe I need to go over there and maybe hedge my bets. And
I'm not going to give the Eagles that much credit. If somebody would have gave Rashad $3 million, he was going there. He came here because they're a good team. And his hope is he stays healthy. The Eagles get a lot of players to come here because they're a good team. Once they get here, I think they like the way they do business because, but I don't think they're coming here for that.
All right. Well, there you have it, you guys. This has been Football 24/7 with John McMullen. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. Like I always say, make sure you smash that like button. We need you guys to stay engaged. We need you guys to continue to get John riled up. Sometimes he can be a bit too stoic, a bit too cool for school. So I need you guys to continue to get our guy John riled up.
Don't say dumb things. Don't say dumb things. Never advocate that, Tone. Never. Come on.
Well, not dumb things per se, but more so I want them to challenge your thought a little bit, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. You can do that. If somebody comes up with you know, a reason why what they're doing with Nolan Smith makes sense, I'll listen. I've tried to go down every avenue. And ultimately, because I guess, and I know we got to go. I mean, I talked to the scouts about Nolan Smith. I know how they scouted him.
Right. We
They
talked about this,
scouted him
right?
as a stinking edge rusher.
Right.
Now, they also told me directly, look, once you get it, and we've seen this, and I've used the example of Bavante Maddox. Once you get into the regular season, you only have 53 players. You get a bunch of injuries. Often guys have to play out of position. That's different. You get to that when you get to that. It's strange.
You just brought something to my attention, and I know we gotta get out of here, but I gotta sneak this one last question in with you. You know, you brought up the fact again that the scouting department, when they scouted Nolan Smith, they scouted him as an edge rusher. All his traits, everything that he brings to the table, they thought this guy can come in and be a top tier edge rusher, right? You've been around this league for a long time, and you've covered a few different teams other than the Philadelphia Eagles. I have to ask you this question now. How, and since you spoke to the Philadelphia Eagles scouting department, I would imagine you've spoken to other teams' scouting department as well. How often do scouting departments get a bad rap because they evaluated a player one way, but the team decided to use the player an entirely different way, a la Hassan Reddick? How frustrating is it for these scouting departments, and how often do you see those kind of situations play out?
Pretty often. I mean, people like to blame people, you know. People like Jalen Reagor would be the most recent example here. Like, nobody wants to have Jalen Reagor on their resume. And it was the coaching staff who wanted Jalen. The scouting staff wanted Justin Jefferson, and thought he would. And Doug wanted a specific type of player. Now, but it's not like the scouting staff hated Jalen Reagor, so it's like a combination. That's revisionist history. Like, a lot of people think today, like, oh, if the Eagles didn't take Jalen Reagor, he would have went, you know, I don't know, way in the second round. New Orleans was going to take him. They were like 4 or 5 spots behind him. He was always going to be a first round pick. The entire league liked Jalen Reagor. And most of the time when first round picks or even bridge picks, like you could argue he was, don't succeed, it's not because they don't have the physical ability. It's always something else. It might be off the field stuff, might be work ethic, might be attention to detail. You know, Jalen makes a lot of mental errors. He makes a lot of mental errors. If you watch Quarterback on Netflix, if people watch that, you'll see it. It was in that Indianapolis game, the largest comeback in NFL history. They do a whole thing on that specific game. The Vikings could have had 2 more touchdowns. It would have been an easy win if Jalen Reagor ran the right routes that he was supposed to run, and he didn't.
Wow.
And they showed the one, and it's bad. And that was the same stuff that happened here. And that's the reason he's no longer here. That's the reason he's probably going to get cut this year out there. But he's got tremendous talent, physical gifts, physical skill. If you remember that catch at training camp, it's one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. And I covered Randy Moss. He's got tremendous physical skill. But the Eagles scouting staff wanted Justin Jefferson. The Eagles coaching staff wanted Jalen Reagor. Ultimately, the coaching staff is supposed to get what the coaching staff wants. So they did it the right way. They picked the wrong player, obviously. And by the way, a lot of people got Justin Jefferson wrong, because there's a lot of people in this league that thought he was only a slot receiver. And he's been anything but, obviously. So anyway, that's just a little peek into it. But in the case of Nolan, I don't know anybody who was scouting him as an all-ball linebacker. In the case of that's the difference. In the case of Hassan Reddick, in the case of Micah Parsons, a lot of teams were scouting them as all-ball linebackers. More teams were scouting Micah Parsons as an all-ball linebacker than not. More teams were scouting Hassan as an all-ball linebacker than not. So it's a little bit different from that perspective.
Yeah, hey, listen, Eagles fans, like John said, it wasn't the Eagles alone that got it wrong when it came to Justin Jefferson. The Las Vegas Raiders got it wrong. They chose Henry Ruggs III. The Denver Broncos chose Jerry Jeudy. They got it wrong. Dallas, they chose CeeDee Lamb. I'm pretty sure they're pleased with it, but I'm pretty sure if you ask them, Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb, I think they'll take Justin Jefferson. And then obviously the Eagles chose Jalen Reagor. So there were 4 or 5 receivers who got picked before Justin Jefferson. So I don't want the Eagles fans to think this is just
and that's another thing. Every single NFL team gets picks wrong. Absolutely. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Not just your team. Every single one of them.
Absolutely.
And obviously the better batting average you get, the better. But nobody's batting 1,000.
Hey, you guys heard it here first. This has been Football 24/7 with my guy, John McMullen, and I'm your man, Tone DeShields II. Make sure you guys smash that like button, and make sure you guys are subscribed to the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. And also, if you guys want more writing, more content from our Eagles insider, John McMullen, check him out on JAKIBsports.com. That's JAKIB Sports.com. Take care, you guys. One love. Stay humble. Stay healthy. And most importantly, stay hungry.